Hi everyone, so I'm back again to do another video for you. The video I'm going to do today is a flower that I have in my garden, and it's called Oleander. It's quite a tropical flower. Apparently they're not supposed to grow very well in this country, but I've managed to get two of the colours growing okay anyway, so sometimes we can prove the experts to be wrong. So I'm going to get on with it, and I'm going to do it all by freehand, no cutters this time, so let's get on with it. So I've got some of the flowers here that I've already made. These are the actual flowers. There's quite a lot of flowers in it, in the head of it, and this is the pink one that I'm doing. There are other colours in it. There's a peachy colour, there's white, and I did have a yellow one. Unfortunately, when I bought my oleanders, I bought a set of three: white, yellow and pink, and the yellow one didn't survive. So apparently they're not supposed to survive below freezing point. So I've got two of them. The white one and the pink one are doing okay, thank you very much, and flower every year. So there are two things that I'm going to do: the flower that I've just shown you, and then the buds. So I'm going to do a combination of these, and also the leaves. I have actually got an oleander leaf here, which is this one here, and I have done some in sugar, just to give you an idea of what I've managed to achieve. You don't need a veiner for the leaves either. Although there is veining on them, you have to look with a microscope to be able to see it. They do look quite plain, so I haven't used any veiner for that at all. So I'll get some paste out, and we'll start off by making the flowers. So I'm using a very pale pink here to start off with. The colour that I've used for colouring this is the baby pink from Sugar Flare. It's one of their pastel colours that they brought out a while ago. So I'm going to start off with the small ball of paste, round about the size of not quite as big as a Malteser, a bit bigger than a Marifat pea. Now before I get onto that, I need some wires. I forgot to cut my wires to start off with. You need fairly thin wires for this, because there's you've got a lot of flowers together, so by the time I've taped them all together, there will be, right, when I find where, oh there they are. So I'm going to use a 28 gauge wire for this, and I'm going to use this for both the flowers, the buds and the leaves. Get one out. There we are. Put that back at the back there. So I'm just going to cut this in half, and I'm just going to use a quarter of a wire for the flowers and the buds. Like I do with all my videos, I'm only going to do one of each, then we can get onto the colouring, because you don't want to sit and watch me making loads of flowers for hours. So I'll start off by rolling it into a cone, like that. This is my easy way of doing pulled flowers that I found out about a few years ago, and I'd been doing pulled flowers a lot longer if I'd have known this. So here I've got the gem tool, which has got the star ends on it. You've got a 5 star end on one and 6 on the other. This has got 5 petals, so I'm going to go into the centre with that, like that. So then you want a pair of nail scissors, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut into each of those grooves like that. And then I'm going to get a pad. I'm using a different pad today because my others, I put them in the wash and they weren't dry, so I'm using this one now, somewhere on here. Oh, there it is. I'm using a small ball tool. If you buy these metal ones, you can get them in a set of 3, so you've got your small, medium and large. That's the one that I use quite a lot, the small end of that. So I'm going to use the large end of this one just to pull those petals out. Doesn't matter if they're a bit obscure, because the petals on these are not very neat. They are quite funny type of petal. They're a bit misshapen, so don't worry about that. There's another flower that's got similar petals, and I'm trying to think what it is that's a little bit skew with. So anyway, once I've got that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a small cell stick. Now if you haven't got one of these, you can use a cocktail stick. If you get it on your finger, flatten that petal out and then just roll it out so they're quite thin. I'm going to come back to that in a bit. I just want to roll these out to thin them out a little bit to start off with. Now the petals are a little bit narrower than this on the oleander, but I found that a bit difficult to do with a pulled flower like this. You could take a little bit off before the next stage if you wanted to make them a bit smaller. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it there, and I'm going to use my nail there as a hard thing, and I'm going to go around the edge of them to make it really, really thin on the edge. So you might need to lift it off just to get that edge, to make it quite frilly. And for the reason for that is because you'll find it's a lot easier to shape your petals if you get your edges really thin. The reason I do it on my hand is because I find it a lot easier to get the petals really thin like this when you're doing a pulled flower like this. Right, so once I've done that, I'm just going to check to make sure I haven't got my petals stuck together. So I'm just going to go in with the scissors just to go down the side there, just to make sure that they are separated. In some cases, when you're rolling them out, sometimes you can end up getting them stuck together. So I'm just redefining the petals just to make sure they are separated. There we are. Right, so the next thing to do is to do the centre of the flower. Now I'm just going to leave that to one side just for a second, and I should have done this first. I should have made the centre for the flower, and somewhere on here I've got some cotton, and I find what I've done with it. Is it down on my shelf here? There it is. Doesn't matter what colour cotton you're going to use. I'm just going to wind it round one finger for this. I did do a few out of this. Probably around about 20 times you want it round your finger. Just cut that off and take that off the finger. This is going to be too long for what I want. So what I'm going to do is get a piece of the wire, and I'm just going to take that, bend a little hook on the top like that. This is probably a little bit stiff for this flower. That doesn't matter because we're going to tape it on afterwards. You just get your wire together and just twist it round. That's not going to stay put, isn't that? But never mind. So what I'm going to do is, before I go any further with this, I'm just going to get some tape, wind that round the wire and bring that up onto the cotton like that, and then back down again. I do quite a lot of flowers with using the cotton, as you've seen if you've watched my videos before. So what I'm going to do is, if you just get that between your finger and your thumb, it wants to be quite small these because of tiny stamens in this, and get my nail scissors again and just take that off. Normally I'd have put more than one wire on that, and just make sure it's straight. Do your hairdressing bit and get it between your fingers like the hairdresser does with your hair, and just fill that out. Right, so there we've got these little tiny stamens. So what we need to do now is to open those up. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a bit of burgundy on here on my brush, and then I'm just going to get into the stamens and I'm going to brush them. This is a polyester thread, so you can't soak the colour up with this like you can with cotton thread. So I'm just going to dust this on just to get a bit of colour into it and open the stamens out. Because these are so small, I'm not going to do a lot else with that. It's just to give them a little bit of colour. So we'll just get rid of that out of the way. So then, if you get your flower, and then wire into the centre, twist it down, and pull it down into the flower until you've just got your stamens showing, like that. Then with your two first fingers, then roll it between your two first fingers to roll quite a long neck on it, like that. Then what I'm going to do, because these petals are quite curled in, and some of these are already doing that, I'm just going to play around with them and just tilt them up to get them. This is why you need the really thin edges on, so you can do this with them. It doesn't matter if they're not all the same, it's just a matter of getting some shape into them, because they don't grow flat, don't the petals on these. And you notice I haven't veined this either, because again there's not much veining on the flowers on these. There we are, so they're a little bit crinkled up like that, curled in. Okay, so you put that to one side to dry. Now the buds, another piece of wire, similar sort of size ball of paste, depends on how big you want your buds to be, because with flowers they do come at different excuse me, they do come at different stages, so so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little hook on the end of the wire, and then pull that down into the bud. I've shaped it a little bit at the bottom, but I didn't want to shape it too much because you can do most of that once you get your wire in. So pull that down into the paste like you would if you were doing a rose, then thin the back down. Don't worry about that hole in the top, that's going to disappear in a minute. So once I've got the long back on it, then with your finger and thumb on the top side, then roll again to narrow that down to make that more into a bud shape, like that. And then if you lay it on your fingers and then get your cutting wheel and then divide that into 5, so 1, you have to guess this because it's difficult to work out exactly where the line should go, but if you're careful with it you should get it reasonably okay. So that's that into there. Now I've flattened the bottom bit holding it, so I'm just going to roll that back again just to make that, bring that back around a bit. So there you have your bud. So we'll just set that on one side again to dry. Right, then onto the leaves. So I'm just going to get rid of this pink paste now and get some green paste out. Now again, because the leaves are very narrow on this particular, on the oleander, I've done this freehand. So I'm just going to keep that wire to one side, and I'm going to, where's my scissors gone? There they are. I'll just cut that in half again. I did actually use third length wires because they're quite long of these, but this is just basically to show you how it's made, because I've already got all my leaves made and dried. So onto your board, put a little bit of white fat on there, just so it's easier to roll it out and have it stick to your board. I'm only going to cut one leaf out here, so I'm not rolling a lot of paste out like I would normally do. Somebody sent me a message the other day about the paste that I'm using. If anybody wants to know, if you want information on the paste that I use, these are all paste that I make myself that I found on YouTube. So if anybody wants any recipes or anything like that, if you send me a private message on Facebook on my page, Terry Hatfield, and I will send me your email address and I will email it to you. And that also includes a paste for making flexi flowers as well. I've got a recipe for that as well. I've already done a video on that, doing the gerbera, so if anybody wants a recipe for that. So I've got my ridge down the middle with my trusty little rolling pin. If you can get hold of one of these, they're absolutely brilliant for this sort of job, especially for something like this, because the ridges would be too thick if I use the other side of this board. I know I don't often use this, but sometimes it depends on what you're doing really as to which is the best. So it's up to you when you're working with these things to find out which suits you. Right, so I'm just going to cut out a narrow leaf so you can see how narrow it is by how close I'm going into the groove. Just cut out a leaf shape like that, and then take the paste away like that. Off your board, and then like always, between your finger and your thumb, just rest your thumb on top. Don't press on it because you don't want to squash that groove that you've got there. And I have got a wire here when I get hold of it, and then twist it into the bottom of the leaf and get it as far up your leaf as you can. So just move your leaf gently up and down so you can feel where it's going through. And it's wrinkled up a bit there. Just pull that down at the bottom there like that. There we are. So that's onto the wire. So the next thing to do then is to thin your edges as normal, as you would normally do. So I'm going to go back to my normal ball tool that I use for this and thin your edges. Now they are quite flat of these leaves. What have I done with my leaf? I'll show you again wherever I've put it. There it is. But the problem with that is if you do that in sugar, they don't look lifelike, so sometimes we have to give them a little bit of movement just to make them look alive. Now normally this would be the back of the leaf. For this particular one, because of the ridge going up the middle, and this is my reasoning behind it, the reason why I've done it, because it has got a ridge on the back on the real leaf but not on the front, but the middle of the leaf is quite light coloured, so when it comes to colouring I've left it this way up to make it easier for me. When people are looking at things from a distance, they don't see these little details. This is something that you know about that they don't. So I'll just get that out of the way and I'll bring my kitchen roll over with the colours on that I'm using for this. Now I've used a variety of different colours. So I'm going to start off with the leaf because I've just done that one. Just bear with me while I get into my paste pot. There we are, to get rid of that. Because I've got my foam on top of it, so it was a little bit difficult working with it. So I've got a, so if you get your leaf you've just done, and then that wants to go onto your foam, just to give it something so that you can keep it upright. And it doesn't matter so much about shaping it, because like I say, they are quite straight and not a lot of movement in them. But so what the first thing I'm going to do is to make the central vein up the leaf. I've got some tropical lime here from Edible Art. If you can't get hold of this, then whichever make it is, but you want a very, very light green. And I've got some isopropyl in my shot syringe here. Apparently this is what they do on holiday to have the shots, so I don't use them for that. But it comes in handy in sugarcraft when you're doing this sort of job. And the reason that I've left that ridge is so that I can paint with some of the lime green just down the centre there. I'm not very good at doing straight lines, and this is one of the reasons I've left this. If you can do a straight line without doing this, then you don't have to have the ridge up like this. That's your choice. So what you need to do now is you need to put that to one side to dry. So while that's drying, that will show up more when it dries. I'm just going to pop that to one side. I've got a lamp there with a little dry it out because it's quite warm, is that. I'm just going to get that out of the way. So I'm going to come on to the flower. So here I've got a dry one that I did earlier. And I have a brush here with I'm using the same colour, the rich burgundy that I used before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch the back of the flower with this rich burgundy. Just the back, not the front. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you've got any comments about anything you'd like to see, or questions about anything that I've done, leave them in the comments below. Now just bring that colour part way down the back of the flower there, like that, about that far down. Get rid of that brush, and then I've got a green brush here somewhere. Whatever I've done with it. There. And I'm going to use, the green I'm using here is Ginkgo from Edible Art, which is sort of quite a bright mid-green. And then brush up a little bit from the base, from your wire, just to give a little bit of green just at the base there of the flower. And then also I've got a bud here. No, that's a soft one. I should have a bud somewhere. Yes, I have, hiding behind my flowers. This is one that's dried. And again, while I've got the green brush in my hand, I'm just going to do the bottom. So I'll bring that up from the base like that. And then go back to the burgundy again, and then from the top just dust down with the burgundy and bring it down to meet the green. You want to blend these together, don't have any lines going round or anything like that. Nature's not like that, we don't have straight lines. There we are, so that's the bud. So we'll just pop that to one side, and I'm just going to pop that there, and then I'm going to come back to the leaf now. The light green down the centre is dried now, so I'm going to go back to my green brush, and I've got a different green here. This one is called Rainforest from Edible Art, which is a dark green, and then very gently brush down the sides of the light green line. There we are. That's that. You can give it a waft on the back if you want. I haven't bothered with these because the backs of the leaves on the actual leaf are quite light on this particular one. If I just turn that over for you. So that's your front and that's your back, which is very light. So I haven't bothered to dust on the back of these because the green was dark enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my glazing brush somewhere. I set all these things out so I can see everything before I start and then forget where I put them. People put it down to my age, so that's just the way things are, isn't it? That will do. Oops. So leaf glaze onto your leaf and then just glaze all over. And I've picked a bit of red up from somewhere on there. I should have checked that brush to make sure it was clean before I used it. But that does add a little bit to the so I'm just going to pop that under the light there so that'll dry. And don't forget to clean your brush when you do use the glaze, because otherwise it sets hard and then you can't do anything with it. I always keep some isopropyl in a separate bottle. Looking a bit murky now because it's been used quite a lot, but I just keep using it until it gets really bad and then you can throw it away. But just keep that just for cleaning your brushes. Just get that onto my foam, onto my kitchen roll, and get the colour off of that. Put the glaze away. Oops, just things are falling over on my shelf. Just bear with me a second while I just put these back up there. There we are, done. Right, so once you've done that, you can get all your flowers now. Those are all my flowers and all of my buds. You do get quite a few flowers on a head with these, so we'll see how I go when I put this together. And get some tape. This is probably a bit light because they are a bit darker than this, but no, that's too thin, too wide. Use this. But it'll go with the stems. That the stems are already covered with this colour, so I'm just going to cover the stems just to match them up so that everything looks the same. If you get a habit of that, then everything matches in, because these wires are darker green. You can get lighter green wires. I've never bothered with them because I tend to cover them with stem text anyway. Probably have to get some more tape out to put the rest together, but never mind. as I keep mentioning before, and I haven't had anybody do it, if there's anything you'd like to see me do that nobody else has done, let me know. If it's something that I can do, I'll find a way of doing it. I'll practice with it. My students used to love giving me challenges like that so that they could see whether I could do it or not. So if there's anything that you would like to see, pop it in the suggestions below. And let me know if you're enjoying my videos as well. It'd be nice to talk to some of you as well, you know, if you've got something to say. I have had a few comments just lately, very complimentary about my videos, so be nice to hear from some more of you, just to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. Let's get a bit more green tape. I've got some more here. If your tape gets folded over like this has, just straighten it out before you do this. Just get in one piece straight and then just run your fingers down it like that to bring it back. Because with having glue in it, it does have a tendency to stick to itself, so it's a good idea to just straighten it out before you start. Otherwise you could end up with pieces that are a bit thick. There we are, done. Start with the other end, that's the thinner end. Stretch your tape before you start. I'm sure you've all heard me say this before, but for the sake of repeating myself, we do sometimes get people that haven't done any before, so you have to think about the people that are just starting as well. Right, so that's all my wires covered with those. It doesn't matter about the leaves, because the leaves are going to go right down to the stem anyway. So I'm going to start by putting some buds in. Now these don't have a flat head like something like a hydrangea or something like that. They tend to grow at different levels. They don't grow in straight lines or anything like that. So when you're doing this sort of thing, just bear that in mind. If you can get hold of a flower, look it up online. This is what I did for this, because they're not in flower at this time of year, with it being February. It's much too early to have them in flower. If I'd have done this when they were in flower, then it would have been a different matter. I don't think I'm going to use all these. I think I'll probably just put about 5 buds in and 5 flowers. So I'm just going to bring that back up, open those out, like that, and then we'll just pop some flowers in between. I'm sorry if I went off shot there, I forgot to look at my camera. I'll just bring that down, bring that up a little bit more there so you can see what I'm doing. Like I keep saying, for the sake of repeating myself, if you haven't got a camera person to do this for you, it does get a little bit difficult to keep on top of it. Just come down a bit and put a flower in lower down. Put one in lower down there, on that side. And we'll tape down. And then you can open it out. Now if you want to, at this stage, when you've got into there, you can go back in with your colour now, and the stems do have a little bit of red below the buds and the flowers, so if you want to get in and just give it a little bit more red down the stems a bit. You don't have to do this, it does help to the making it look. Now the heads are probably a little bit bigger than this. I'm just going to put another flower in there, just to give us a little bit more down here, on this side here. And tape down. And then I'm going to put some leaves in now. So if we start putting some leaves in underneath, just put that in underneath there like that, and just gradually go around and put some leaves in. I'll put about 3 in there, and then I'll go down a little bit lower and put some more in. There are quite a lot of leaves on oleander bushes. Just in case anybody's wondering, this is a poisonous plant as well, so if you've got if you want to grow these and you've got animals and children and stuff like that, then it's probably not a good idea to. I mean, I have got a cat, but he doesn't go around eating the green foliage in the garden, so it doesn't really matter so much. But I mean, if you do have any animals or any children that's liable to go around touching things, because when you prune this bush you have to wear gloves so you don't get it on your hands. It wouldn't kill a human being, but it probably could make them very poorly. Going to come down a little bit further and put another leaf in. There it is. It's dried. And then tape all the way down to the bottom. My tape's folded over a bit there, but never mind. You just have to keep going in and straightening it if you have a problem with that. Right, so we'll just open out these leaves here. There we are. So there we have an oleander. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I always enjoy doing these videos for people. It's one of my passions, making sugar flowers and things like that, you know. So like I say, and I also like to try new things. So if, like I say, if there's anything that you'd like to see me do, or anything you're not sure about, any questions about anything that I've done, then please do get in touch, and speak to you all soon. So stay safe and take care.